Hi everybody. I don't know if I'm going to call this a layout update, but it's an update of what I've been doing. So I'm going to share with you uh, some things I've been working on, but also some things I plan to work on. I travel for my job quite a bit, so I had left last Sunday and came back yesterday to a tree that had fallen on my fence, and of course grass needed mowed. So had to take care of those before I could get into the layout room. My throttle, I have used NCE DCC system, and my throttle started acting a little radically. The thumb wheel, the buttons worked fine, but the thumb wheel started jumping. It would speed way up, or it would go from 8 to 0 and stop the engine. So it was really getting hard to operate. So I sent it back to the company and haven't heard anything yet, but I've heard good things about the company that they will repair it with no problem. So I can't run trains, but I have plenty to work on otherwise. Uh, when I travel, I try to take things to work on. Now, if I have to fly, I really can't do it. But in this case, I'm driving. It's a 3-hour drive, so I have an actual little suitcase that I take stuff to work on in the hotel room in the evenings. So I'm going to share with you what I've been working on and what I plan to work on the layout, probably starting next weekend when I'm actually home for a short period of time. As I mentioned in my layout tour, I'm thinking about building another layout. This layout is going to continue to exist. Actually, I'm going to build a switching layout in another room of the house, maybe a little bit larger than this one. And when I retire, maybe eventually I'll have enough room to build an around the walls layout. I started looking at places where I might want to model. One of the things I considered was the Greenbrier branch of the C&O, Durban, West Virginia. It interchanged with the C&O and the Western Maryland there, but there really wasn't enough industry there to be worthy of a switching layout. But I had already acquired 2 of these depots that I was going to kitbash into the Durban depot. Decided not to do it. I turned my attention to the B&O Portsmouth branch, which is an oak. It ran originally from Hampton, Ohio to Portsmouth, Ohio. It had been cut back in the 60s. Ended up didn't go all the way to Portsmouth. There's a town there called Oak Hill, Ohio. It had several industries there. It had a scrapyard. The brick making industry was very big in southern Ohio at one time. Starting to wind down at this time. They had a clay company there that did still got rail service and a scrapyard and a couple other industries. So I thought, well, that would be a interesting area to model. And I already have chassis equipment. So I decided I would do that. And I've got a lot of pictures there when I took in the 80s when I visited there. So I thought, well, can I kitbash these 2 depot kits I had into the station and the freight house, which is behind the GP9 there. So I decided I would do that. Probably wasn't the greatest choice, but I already had them on hand. The biggest problem with it, both are board and batten siding, but you can see with the C&O depot, the board and battens end. This is like a trim, like a decorative trim down here, so the battens don't go all the way to the bottom, where on the B&O depot, they do go all the way to the bottom. On the C&O depot, they go all the way to the roof, where the B&O depot, there's this trim board here, and this area up in here under the eaves is not board and batten. So on the kit, they give you these peel and stick board and battens. I'll flip it over. And they're great. I really like the way they look. I really recommend the kit if you're interested in building that depot. It's a nice kit, but these battens were not going to go all the way to the ground. So I've already started working on it. I'm not particularly happy with it, but maybe it'll act as a stand-in for when I decide what I'm actually going to. Maybe I'll build one out of styrene and windows or something, but I think it'll look reasonably good when I get done, and I'll show you a picture of it when I'm done here, and I'm still working on it right now. I'm painting the shingles on the roof. You can see one interesting thing you can see in this picture is that the it's gray up here, but there's like they had to repair the roof. This is black down here. It's the same way on the back side, so I'm going to actually model that the way it was. I still have to put the little trim pieces on the eaves. I got some evergreen styrene to model this part here, so I do have the battens going down to the ground, and then I've got a piece of evergreen styrene up here. So it'll be a reasonably good approximation, I think. I did cut it down. It's the right length, right width, all that. So anyhow, I'll show you that when I get to it. But let me show you now what I'm going to be working on this layout. When I originally built this layout, this track back here was my NW interchange track, and it was going to run all the way back, and I was actually going to stage an NW train there. And I decided not to do that. I decided I wanted to expand ITT Grinnell, and so now it's just a sort of track that'll hold like 3 or 4 cars, and it ends right there. Still, I could use it. When I made the switch lists myself, made them up, I could put cars there, and I could tell where they were going to go. But once I started using JMRI, the interchange became a little bit more problematic. I had to go into the computer and I had to set, force the cars there to the NW interchange. And I have still not figured out how to get cars to route to the interchange. So it's not a big problem. I've got plenty of switching to do. Plus, in real life, the interchange was down here in the yard. It wasn't in this area. So I've decided to take this and make it into like an abandoned track. At one time, there was some industries a little bit farther east or west of Union Springs, some big old warehouses that they built, and the industries went out of business, but the paper company leased them for warehouses and things, and so they actually had spurs there and would load and unload stuff occasionally. So I'm going to make this an abandoned track. And maybe we'll put maintenance away equipment on it, something like that. I'm going to do this in 2 phases. First of all, I'm just going to make it like it's an unused track. It's overgrown, but I'm not going to take out the turnout. I might park some maintenance away equipment on it, something like that. But it's going to be weedy, rusty, hardly ever used. If I decide later that I don't really need it, can't figure out the interchange, or don't really need the interchange, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this turnout out, and then I will pave over that crossing. Actually, I'll leave the rails in on both sides, but I'll actually physically cut the connection there, sort of look like it's no longer used at all, and I'll just trash it up. So it'll just be like a little scenic feature because I don't really need it for operation. That's probably what I'll be working on again, like I said, next weekend. This week I'm going to try to finish the depot up. I'm going back to Indiana tomorrow for a week, be home Friday. Still have some work to do on the tree, so I have to cut the whole tree down rather than just the part that fell. So eventually I will be working on that. Show you where I'm at on the depot. Again, I don't have the roof on it. The roof is painted right now, so this is where I'm at. Again, I've got some styrene siding up here. I need to make the little access hatch there. The battens, I had to splice them together to get them to go to the floor. I've had to cut the bay window down. It doesn't have a peaked roof, it has a flat roof. Don't have the backside done yet. The paint was a real problem. The paint that I picked out was too yellow. I picked out another one, was too tan, not yellow enough. So what I ended up doing was painting it yellow, and then like really dry brushing like a earth over it, and I kept doing it and doing it and doing it until finally it toned it down enough to where I liked it. So I'll show you a picture of that when I'm completed with it, but I thought show you where I'm at right now. Hopefully by next weekend I'll have it completely done and I can start working on the freight house. That's it for now. Post any comments, questions down the bottom. Like I said, I will continue working on this layout for a while, and I'm going to start on the other layout this fall or winter, and I'll probably just do like a construction series on that from day one. I didn't even start filming this till I was almost done with it, but I'll do a construction series on it, and then I'll occasionally revisit this railroad to show you what I'm doing. So I hope everybody has a good weekend, and stay safe.